Hey everybody, welcome back to Tea Time with Aloha and Coco. I'm Vicky. If you're new to my channel, don't forget to click the subscribe button down below to be part of the Tea Time family. So today is a little story time. So if you're not into story times, this is not going to be for you. But it's actually a story of when I was a child. And I've always believed in God. I've always believed in, I've always been a strong believer. But there was one occasion that happened in my life as a very, very little girl. I'd like to say about 6 years old, 7 years old, where I knew 100% that God existed. Now, please keep in mind, this is coming from the mind of a child. I was a child when this happened. So if you're watching this video as an adult and you're like, that is what made you believe, remember, I was thinking of this as a child, not as a grown adult. So this is a very cool story. I was 5 years old. My great grandmother, Biahuka, she called my sister and I over, and she told us that she went to the store and she purchased something for us. So I was 5 and Senia was 3. She came up to us and she gave Senia these tiny little mini pipe cleaner chicks. I'm sure you guys have seen these all over the place, especially for Easter. You go to Hobby Lobby, you go to the Dollar Tree. They're little chicks that are made out of pipe cleaners with the little beaks. And they're just these tiny little pipe cleaner chicks. And then she went ahead and she handed me what I did not know was going to be one of my most prized possessions as far as materialistic items are concerned. She handed me Pinky. Now, at the time, it was this little bunny and it had little whiskers and a little black sewn-on nose. Little by little, I became incredibly attached to this little bunny. Little by little, the little bunny started losing its features. The little whiskers fell off first. Eventually, the little sewn-on nose fell off. And it was just from all of the love and the places I would take Pinky. Pinky went with me everywhere. The beach, Disney, literally everywhere I would go, Pinky would follow. So long story short, I was madly in love with Pinky, and Pinky became my best friend, my everything. I loved Pinky so much. We were literally inseparable. So anyways, as I mentioned, I would take Pinky absolutely everywhere with me. And one day, it was bedtime, and I went to tuck Pinky into bed with me. Like she's little. I'm going to show you guys Pinky now. I went to tuck her into bed and I looked everywhere. I couldn't find Pinky. Now that was really, really odd because I always knew where Pinky was. It wasn't like it was almost like I wouldn't leave her somewhere and then try to retrace my steps to figure out where I left her. No, like she was always on me. So in my head, I'm like, Pinky is somewhere in the sheets of the bed. She's maybe under the pillow so I'm looking all over the bed and I can't find Pinky. But I want to make something very clear to you guys. I would not go a minute or 2 minutes without Pinky. Pinky would sit down and eat with me. Pinky would sit down on the beach with me. Pinky would go in the water with me. Pinky would come out of the water with me. I saw Pinky as like an arm. So long periods of it's I'm telling you, as a child, it's not like as an adult you have things to do, you have to be here, be there. As a child, your parents are your world. As a child, your toys are your world. So I always had Pinky with me. That was a part of me. That was like my heart out my body. That's the only way I can express it to you, for you to visualize or see how I could not go long periods of time without Pinky. And there's a reason why I'm saying this. Anywho, so obviously that night was super stressful because I never found Pinky. And that night was miserable. The following day was miserable because she was nowhere in sight. The next week was miserable. The next month, the next 3 months. I'm going to go as far as saying the next 6 months were miserable. The Christmas season came around and I remember writing a letter to Santa and telling Santa, I don't want gifts. I don't want toys. There's nothing I want this Christmas. The only thing I ask of you is to bring Pinky back home. That was my only request. I didn't want anything for Christmas. It was like 6 months until Christmas. Christmas passed. Pinky never arrived. Even Santa couldn't find Pinky. And that's crazy because Santa finds everything. And I remember thinking to myself that this was like my world was collapsing, because as a child, when you have a toy you hold so dear, it's really hard for you to let these things go. That is, like I mentioned, when you're a child, there's not much outside of your parents that is your world. You know, like you're pretty much in this little bubble where your mom and your dad are everything, your siblings, your toys. Like that's as far as your little bubble goes. So I was very, very, very sad for a very, very, very long time. I would cry all day, 24/7. I could not believe Pinky was gone. And everybody tried to help. Everybody. My mom tried to help. My mom tried to find toys that look similar. My grandmother tried. My great grandmother went back to the store where she bought it from many times, and those Pinkies never appeared again. So I guess it was like a one-time deal where they brought it out for like Easter, and they never, ever came back out again. So my grandmother Poopy, my grandfather, and my sister and I had this tradition. They would pick us up every Sunday from my house, and they would take us to Bayside. We grew up in Bayside. If you don't know what Bayside is, it's kind of like an outdoor mall near the beach by the bay. And we would go there. We would eat at different restaurants every time we'd go. They would take us to all the little stores. I remember there was a Crystal store there. There was a Disney store there. So they would take us every Sunday, and we'd go eat with them. And then we would just go have the best time ever. I remember one time in particular, my grandmother said, well, we're not going to go to Bayside today. We're actually going to go to Wow. For those of you who don't know the store Wow, it was actually called Wow many, many years ago, like the 90s. Right now, that store is called Big Lots. And I believe there was another name in between or right before Wow. There was another name that was given to it. But when we went as children, it was called Wow. So my grandmother was like, okay, so we're going to do something different today. We'll go eat lunch, and then we can take you to the Sanrio shop. There used to be a Sanrio shop where I used to live, like right near the area. So she's like, we could take you to the Hello Kitty store. And this was me, like I was still very sad. So she would try so hard to like buy a little toy or something to kind of not replace Pinky, but to fill that sadness that I had. And yeah, nothing would work. So anyways, she picked us up. She took us to the Hello Kitty store, and it was I purchased this little Pochaco because Pochaco was my thing. I loved Pochaco. I liked Hello Kitty like when I was older, maybe like in my like 18, 19 years old, then Hello Kitty was my thing. But my whole childhood was Pochaco. So I bought this little Pochaco, or she bought me this little Pochaco. The toy, it had this compartment. The body was like triangular. It was blue. I remember it having something on the neck, maybe a bow tie. I'm not 100%. I'm gonna see if I can find a picture of it. And if I find it, I'm probably gonna buy it. But it was like this triangular body, and it was like made out of charol, which is like, you know those shoes that look like leather, but they're like really shiny? That's what the body looked like. It obviously wasn't leather, but it was like that, like a royal blue with that shine. And then when you flipped it, that you opened the bottom, like the little body, it had a Velcro strip in the bottom. So you could open it and you can place things inside. So it was almost like a little tiny purse with no handle. And the body was like the actual purse. So anyways, she buys that for me, and I'm like, oh, this is so nice. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Obviously, I'm thankful for it, even though it's not Pinky, because everyone in my family, every person that knew me, every person in my family, everybody was trying to help because they knew how much she meant to me. So we're done at the little Sanrio store, and my grandmother says, okay, now it's time to go to Wow. So we go to Wow, and we are in like a section where there's like, I believe it's either toys or decor. I'm not quite certain. I can't remember. But you know when you go to a store that they have the shelving, like Target, where like you have the shelving like that, and then they have toys in the front. It's basically just a shelving, and it doesn't matter what aisle you go in, they have them. Okay, so that was there. I was waiting for my grandmother because she was looking at some things, and I remember this part is extremely important, and this is the part where I, as a child, didn't recognize how big this moment was. And this moment was witnessed by 4 people. It was me, my sister, Pupi, my grandmother, and my grandfather. Us 4 were the people who witnessed this. So we're in the shelf, and I get this feeling of I have to stick my arm in the shelf. But all the way to the back. Not like stick the arm in the shelf and grab something. All the way to the back. Stick your hand all the way in the back and grab something. So I looked down because it wasn't necessarily eye level. It was more like I had to duck down a little bit. It was one of those shelves where it wasn't eye level for me. I was very little, so I had to duck down a little. So I ducked down, and it's almost like something telling me, grab something. So I go ahead and I stick my arm in, not knowing why, not knowing anything, just knowing that I have to stick my hand in. I see this huge, like, you know, when you see the dust balls, and it's like full of hair, people's hair, and it's just dust, and it's like a whole bunch of stuff accumulated into this nastiness. Well, I saw something like that, but I saw something very small and pink inside of it. And I just knew I had to get it because something was telling me to get it. So I go in all the way, I take out the dust, and then I start peeling off the dust and the hair. It was Pinky. I know that people will have a hard time believing that, but my grandmother, who had helped for months and months, at this point, it must have been 9 months because it was way after Christmas. It could have been 9 months, it could have been a year. My grandmother stared at me and looked down at my hand, and it was as if she was seeing she was like it was as if she had seen like a little angel. She goes, "Where did you get that?" And I'm like, "It was in the shelf. It was all the way in the back. It was covered with dust." And she goes, I cannot believe what I just witnessed. I cannot believe what I just saw." She called my mom right away. My sister was like, "How did you get her? And where was she? You don't understand. Like, I just took it out of there." Like, everybody, my grandfather was in shock. When we went home, like, everyone in my family was just like, that was a miracle from God, because that's just, ever since that day, Pinky has not left my sight. Pinky has a home for herself. Pinky, if she knows, because Pinky travels with me. I take Pinky everywhere. I've taken Pinky everywhere my whole life. But after my great-grandmother's passing, that was what connected me on some level to her, because she gave her to me. So she would travel even more with me. And now that Pupi is no longer with us, that's gonna just be like she's not attached to me, because like I'm afraid of either Holly getting to her or it falling somewhere. Like, I'm even more protective over it now, but still somehow she needs to go everywhere with me. I know that it may sound silly to a lot of people who, you know, are religious as I am. It may sound silly to a lot of people who are not religious. As a child, I knew that was God answering my months and months and months and months of prayer. I prayed every single night for God to bring Pinky back. Every single night, every single day, I would pray to God and say, "God, please, please, please bring her back." I know that was God answering my prayer, because there's no way. And as I mentioned, this is a little child's prayer. Remember, children's prayers are so innocent. They ask for toys. They ask for, there's cases where children are asking for peace in the home, for a loving family, for this. I understand that. But as a little girl praying to find her best friend, God answered that. As an adult, I understand wholeheartedly the face, the reaction, and the story that my grandmother tells. My grandmother has told my Pinky story to absolutely anyone who was ever willing to listen, because she tells me to this day, "Vicky, that was God. I'm 100% certain that was God. There's no other explanation. There's no other reason. That was God. And like I said, I've always believed in God, even as a little girl. But that just showed me that God is always listening and he's always there for us. Even if we think he isn't, even if we think that we're praying for something and it never happens, there's a plan. So I know, like I said, this may not be, there's people who go through really bad things and they find God in that way, but I've known of God and I've believed in him since I was a very little girl. So now that I've told you my story, now you understand why Pinky has been so meaningful to me. First and foremost, it was given to me by my great grandmother. It was a story of receiving something and loving it and taking care of it. It was a story of a connection to not just my grandparents, but to God. And I know that I keep saying it because I know a lot of people are going to be like, that's not something, there's bigger things that God has to worry about, not a child and a toy. But remember what I said in the beginning. For children, there's not much more outside of their family that exists to them, especially not me, 30 years ago. It's nothing like how it is now, that kids have all these plans and kids go do this and kids have phones and kids have iPads. None of that existed when I was a kid. None of that. So for me, Pinky was the only thing that was like that. So now that I've talked to you about my story and Pinky, I'm going to show you Pinky now. I'm pretty sure that if you've been here for long enough, you know of Pinky because you've seen videos of her. I've taken her to Europe, to Paris. I've taken her to Disney. I've taken her everywhere and I've shared those things with you. The other day, I actually redid her whole house because she's got like a little house. And so if you've been here for a while, you've seen her. If you're just seeing me through this video, then let me introduce you to Pinky. Let's go. So this is Pinky's house. This is actually a little room that I purchased off of American Girl about 30 years ago. And it's like this little room that has all of the hard wiring. So you could put like miniature house lamps and it's supposed to work. I lost the cord that you can attach to the wall and then everything lights up. I lost that. And I've hot glued different panels and I've done different walling, like wallpaper and flooring. And I've done a whole bunch of different things to this house. I literally remodel this little house. I'd like to say once a year, maybe once every 2 years. But it's changed a lot since its original state. It used to be very 1990s with all of the little bubble furniture and the glitter and all that. And little by little, as I have grown up, I kind of changed Pinky's house into whatever I'm feeling at the moment, or like my etapa, the stage I'm in at life, or the stage I am at in life. Right now, I'm in my fisherman core era, very Ralph Lauren. I love that like clean, sleek Hamptons vibe. So I did this like if it's a beach house in New York City, like in the Hamptons, very fisherman core. And yeah, this is Pinky back here. And the reason her name is Pinky is because she's pink and she was the size of my pinky, or is the size of my pinky. So that is why that's her name. And all these little clothes that she has on, Poopy used to make them for her. Poopy used to make her a whole bunch of dresses. And in her studio, because she was a seamstress, she would make wedding dresses, communion dresses, everything. The ladies that used to work with her, they used to also pitch in and make Pinky dresses. So everybody knew about Pinky. And then the little nose and the mouth. Remember I told you she had whiskers and a little sewn on nose? Well, when she lost the whiskers and little sewn on nose, my aunt actually painted her little nose and her little mouth with some fabric paint. And yeah, she's just been, this is my grandmother. This is Poopy's fingerprint. Before she passed, I took paint and I had her put her fingerprint on Pinky's back. So, like she always has my back. And yeah, so this is my treasure. And I love her so much. This means so much to me. You'll never understand this little treasure right here. So I keep her here. And then whenever we travel, I take her with me. But she's very special to me. And then this little house is really cool because it brings a cover, like a panel, so nothing falls out and everything stays in there without getting dust or anything like that. Let me show you the panel. So this is the panel. I added the little American flag and the velvet bow. But this is, it's magnetic. So it's magnetic. It adheres to the box. But as you can see, like it covers it. Doesn't let dust get in or anything like that. And yeah, that's Pinky. That is my little love. And I'm so happy that I've been able to treasure her and to take care of her. And as I said, she's got a very special story. So that's the story of Pinky, everyone. I've had so many people try to come up with logical explanations for this, and there's just none. Because, okay, let's say that there was a logical explanation. What gave me that inkling, that feeling that I had to take my arm and stick it in a shelf? What gave me that inkling? What made me grab a ball of dust with hair? What made me grab that? There was something inside of me telling me to do that. And it's crazy to me because even if there is a logical explanation, the fact that I took my arm and stuck it on in a shelf all the way in the back, one specific spot, that only tells me that, you know, that was God telling me something. Like, even if there's a logical explanation, there really isn't. So anyways, that is how I knew God was listening to me. And it's a silly little story, but looking back at it now, that was a miracle. Now, I'm sure there was many of you guys out there who believe in God wholeheartedly, but your stories are a little bit different. Maybe you went through something and then you turned to God. Maybe you never believed and then you started believing. Whatever the case is, everybody has their own story. Mine's is just a little bit different. Mine's is true to like who I am, very childish and very there's just a lot of innocence and I'm really happy that I have always had God in my heart, even as a little girl. I mean, if you guys have ever been through something that was crazy like that, something that you couldn't explain, I'd love to know. Don't eat me. Don't eat me. No. Ay, suave, que me duele. My skin is very sensitive. Thank you. So soft.
Up. I believe we should end this video here.
I believe so too. With that, I leave you.
Have a magical and fantastic, never give up on your dreams day.
And don't forget,
Stay magical.
magical.
Defying gravity.
Defying magical. And with that, I must leave you for the next time.
Wait. Put your name in the comments if you like this video.
Oh, I do. Tata likes it.
Anybody else?
Everybody.
If you don't like it, put a thumbs down.
Don't do that. Don't tell them to do that.
But we'll never put you in the video.
They're not going to be in it anyway.
If you don't like us, we won't like you.
Eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth.
What? I'm an eye, a tooth and a tooth.
Talk to me and I'll set you free. Come on, sisters, grab on. That's from the Sister Act.
An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Talk to me and I'll set you free. Rap on, sisters, rap on.
Anyways, we'll see you all in the next video. Don't forget, stay magical.